Hey, welcome in everybody. This is CaptoftheDorks, and we are going to do a full comprehensive of the Final Fantasy 1 80% no major skips route for the Pixel Remaster version. So for this route, the main route that is used is the double Black Mage route. This route relies on the ability to quickly clear encounters with AoE spells provided by the Black Mages. With 2 Black Mages, we'll have more native spell charges to cast each round. We'll get a extra spell we can cast each round, so if we do end up in the back of the turn order, we have a greater chance to get one of the mages through. And essentially it just makes clearing out the mid-game a lot faster. Plus there are a few bosses where we're going to want to have more spells. One in particular is going to be Lich 1, which is usually about the halfway point of the game, where we really want to be able to cast as many spells per turn as possible. And let's get into it. Alright, so we're going to get our handoff here from the game at the 1 minute 57 second mark, where we're going to have to press start. We're going to head into the town of Cornelia, where we're going to pick up our starting equipment. Alright, first we're going to start off and we're going to go turn on run by default with the left joystick. Head into the weapon shop, pick up a rapier for more damage on the warrior. We're going to head into the armor shop to pick up chainmail to get more damage blocking on the warrior. And then last, we're going to head into the black magic shop to pick up 2 thunders. These thunders will allow us to do some lightning damage, which is very good toward the beginning of the game. Last but not least, we're going to head up to the guard at the top because it's the fastest. By talking to them, we're able to continue the story and talk to the king here to kind of get our fetch quest to go save his daughter, the princess. Now, this game is all about what encounters you choose to take and what encounters you choose not to take. So we're going to go into that a little bit. Essentially, this first encounter that we get, we might take it, we might not. Really, we just want a quick encounter if it can help us. But it's not entirely needed. We can kind of just ditch it. So we're going to do a little bit of menuing here. We're going to go ahead and optimize the warrior and take everything off the monk. We're going to turn on continue auto battle. And then we're kind of just do our steps here until we get an encounter. So we're going to kind of see what it is here. So we got 5 goblins here. We don't really want this. That's not going to give us a level, and it's just going to take some time. If we get 1 crazy horse, that's great and guarantees us level. We get a wolf, those guys are really quick too. But other than that, we're just going to continue on. And we're going to go straight to Garland. Now, pretty easy setup for this battle. What we're going to do here is attack with both of our fighters. And then we're going to cast Thunder. We should be able to finish this within 2 turns, and hopefully nobody dies. The biggest piece we don't want to have in here is a mage to die. If the monk dies, it's not the best, but it gives us a little more experience on the black mages. Because in this game, experience is shared. So we got really easy Garland here for this one. He goes down, and we're looking for a drop in this case. He has a small chance here to drop a longsword, which he didn't get. What we want to pay attention there on that menu is the HP we get on everybody. More importantly, the black mages. Now, the way that HP gain works is they have set levels where they get a good HP gain. Usually that happens at level 4. So here where we only got level 2, we want to check for good HP. Now, you can kind of see good HP by knowing what bad HP is, where it would just be like 1 HP or 2 or something like that. But if we get like a nice 20 jump, that's the ones we want to see. So the fact that they both got a good 20 there is very good. For this, you can talk to the princess to get the loot, or you can just leave. Both work. It's just a little bit faster to talk to her instead. we're gonna head out. So there's a part where we get a little cutscene where they start building the bridge. So you have a little bit of time here, but essentially after this is done, we're gonna go back into Cornelia and heal. That way we get our thunder charges back, because we have a certain amount of magic charges per spell level slot per level. So as we level up, we get more to a maximum of 8 per slot. And once we get really far in the game, we're not going to get far enough to have 8 in every slot. So for this, once we get out, we'll go to Cornelia, we'll heal up, and then we will leave the town, and we'll head up to the bridge to the north. If you path perfectly, you'll never get an encounter there. And we don't need an encounter, so we just follow that straight. So let's talk about a little bit about encounters. So the speed of the game really depends on which encounters you take. We want to take good encounters, and we'll kind of go over a few of those as we go. But the idea is you really need to know what encounters give you good gil, what encounters will give you good experience, and what encounters have a chance to take a long time. So normally if it takes a long time, we might want to actually try to take the encounter, because fleeing isn't guaranteed per round. So if we can clear an encounter that has a 9-pack, instead of just missing the flee checks and getting hit 9 times over and over again, we can actually just clear that encounter. So we could get lucky with the fleas, and you might do that if you're really pushing for time. But if you really want to be safe, you kind of have to min-max the idea of, okay, do I want to clear out this encounter and kind of mitigate how long this encounter is going to take. So for each encounter, it is completely random. It's generated as you go throughout the game. So the game decides how many steps till your next encounter as it goes each time. And it doesn't decide until the next encounter. And it also doesn't decide what that encounter is going to be until you step on the tile that it decided the next encounter is going to be on. Or number of steps, essentially. It's the next encounter. So we essentially want to take as few steps as possible. So we want to do some diagonal movement for Pixel Remaster, as well as we want to really optimize our pathing as we go. So just be really sure about the directions you need to go, so really understand the maps and the layouts of how you want to move throughout all these dungeons. The other thing we really need to pay attention to is HP. We'll have a good chunk of potions that we can use. So each potion will give you about 50 HP of healing. We want to kind of optimize those, but then we also want to pay attention to the early levels where we might take the 40 heal just to have that extra little buffer between death, because Phoenix Down's early game are very sparse. The other thing we want to pay attention to are spell charges. So as we go through, we can really tell those, and we can kind of take care of either encounter. So here's another goblin fight. We really don't need it, but on the Walkthru we want to try to get to level 4. So we'll have 3 fights, maybe 2 sometimes, but we really want the ogres here. They're good for money early game, and they're good for experience. This one can be a little bit more scary, but this is generally a good fight. So essentially here what we're doing is we're putting a thunder on each of the biggest ones and attacking, because they can hit high. And then after they are kind of done, we're going to go after that ogre. So the general term here is we're just going to hit with our fighters and use our best kind of magic that lines up with each encounter. So in this case we only have thunder, but thunder will do. And it's kind of okay to die as we go here, as long as it's not a mage again. And we really want to pay attention again to HP as we go. The higher the HP and the early encounters, the better. This is another one we kind of don't want. We already reached level 4. Wolves take a long time. It can kind of be good if you need the levels, but it's generally not something we want. So here in Provoca, we're going to go ahead to the right. We're going to go ahead and pick up 2 tempers. A very big part of this run. Tempers increases the attack, essentially. Temporary in battle for whoever it buffs. We're going to go heal up again to get our charges back. And we're going to head over to the pirate fight. So pirate fight, pretty easy. We're just going to use our standard attack, thunder, thunder. And as long as we're level 4, we pretty much won't die in this encounter. And we're really just hoping on RNG to give us turns before the pirates, just so it's a faster battle overall. So in this case, what you need to make sure you pay attention to are these fights that don't take you out. So usually boss battles take you out of auto battle. This one is not. So we were fleeing, so then we would get stuck. So it's better sometimes just to reset, especially if you make a mistake. So this one we can set it up again for Thunder. Attack. Or turn on auto battle. Auto battle speeds up the fight, and it queues essentially the same attack as long as you have spell charges for it. It will just keep queuing it until the battle's over, and when spell charges, where it will revert to a regular attack. So this fight can give us a leather shield, which is kind of good for the warrior, allow the warrior to kind of evade some more hits or block hits. But you know, it's hit or miss. We don't necessarily need it, but it's a nice thing to see where we usually equip it if we do. So after this fight, we'll get the ship, and with the ship, we'll be able to continue on. But first, we're going to want to go to the end to heal up. So a inn heals all HP. It does not take off status effects, but it does heal all spell slots as well. So these first couple sea battles can be kind of scary. What we're hoping to see is preemptives, hopefully. The scary things here are the sharks and the Hagen Chiefs. Sharks are worth a lot of experience, and the Hagen Chiefs are worth decent experience, but decent skill as well. So it's really what we want to see as we go. That one can be a little more scary as we go. Another thing to note, what we did right there is put back on continue auto battle. The first battle that you essentially either die or have to exit out, it takes it off. But once you put it back on again, it's good for the rest of the game. For Sahagins, these guys are okay. If it's a small pack, it's good to go. We kind of want the gil as we go, but it's not worth a lot. But it's still kind of worth taking. We're going to go ahead and take advantage of our steps here. Unfortunately, we got kind of a bad battle. This one's going to be kind of scary. Like we have a lot of HP. We got some good HP ups. In this case, what I like to do is buff the fighter and the warrior, just so that they can kill within one hit. And that way, it clears the battle in this turn. But other than 5 Buccaneers, this is probably one of the best fights we can take. It's going to take a little bit longer. We're going to do essentially the same thing as Buccaneers, where we temper. This one kind of worked out for me, where the Black Mages were still alive, so they were able to get a lot of good experience early on. So we went from level 5 to level 7 there very easily. As you progress through the game, the churches get more expensive. So Cornelia is going to be your cheapest church, so we really don't want to have to revive if we don't need to, but it's really cheap here. As well as inns as well get a little more expensive, but usually those are still kind of worth taking if you have the time. So we're going to go ahead and revive and heal here, get our spell charges back, and head back down. Kind of what we're looking for is we want to be able to buy 1 Thundara, some antidotes and potions when we get down to the next town, Elfheim. So we want to have somewhere around 1,600 or more once we get down there. And this is the best fight in the game. It's going to give us a saber drop, which we want to put on the warrior, so it's a better sword. It's not really worth much to sell, so it's a lot more useful to equip. We're going to attack, temper for this one. Allows us to one-shot, and we'll just defend with the mages. We'll be over within usually about 3 turns. So, no saber drop, but still really good for experience and for gil. Another good one here, a lot less scary now, and really good for gil and experience, and a really quick fight here. So one thing we want to make sure we are is level 7 at least by the time we get down here for the Thundara charge. Level 8's really good because we have more charges. Once we get down here, we want to heal up because until we get the level that gives us the charge, we don't technically have it. So once we get it, we need to essentially restock that slot. And pay attention to what mage has more HP. So in this case, it's our first mage. So we're gonna go ahead and put it on him. And then we're gonna head over to the item shop to pick up potions and antidotes. Now, if you have a little more money like I do, we'll also pick up a tent. We pick up a cottage later on that we'll use. But tents only cost 150, cottages cost 2,000. So we can sell it for 1,000 and make a little money later on. We have such low HP and low spell slots that actually using a tent will essentially net 850 gil from that. So it helps the gil early game. So encounters we go down, we might want to take a few that are kind of easier as you go. If you're really booking it and you have enough, you can kind of skip the majority of these. But you can also kind of take them to get the early levels. So in this case, we want to get a few more levels for our monk and warrior since they died, just so they can tank this upcoming boss battle against the Pisco Demons. Again, this fight's not really worth it unless we have like a Thundara spell. And once we do, we would consider taking these, because the Wargwolves can drop an antidote, which helps out a little bit with gil early game, so we don't have to buy those for 50 gil. And we're going to head down here into the Marsh Cave. The Marsh Cave is made up of 3 floors. The first floor is the least scary. We could get scorpions, which we are hoping not to see. They can poison you and they have a high damage. Not really going to see them too much on the first floor, but might. Now, Grazes can be good. They also can hurt you if you're not able to take them out. But they are good for some early experience. These carries here, we took them. We got level 7 on our fighters. Second floor and third floor about the same. It gets a little scary. Gargoyles, large packs, we don't want to see. They can hit hard. We see 50 on the mage. Luckily, we have just a ton of HP. We got really good HP look. So we're gonna head down to the third floor. This fight can be a little scary here because we could get sunlocked. But normally, unless we have an AoE, this fight we don't really want to take. And you can kind of use quick saving to your advantage as well as you go, if you're thinking about it. Just kind of make sure that you can keep getting down here, especially if you have less supplies or less HP. We're going to pick up this first chest as a Phoenix Down. Very important here because that's worth 1,000 to buy. Werewolves, also another fight we're hoping not to see. They can hurt you a little bit, and they seem to be a little harder to run from, but the big thing is they can poison. And here, there's 6 of them, so they potentially have 6 chances of poison. Just like that. So if we come down here with not enough antidotes, we can run into situations sometimes where we run out of antidotes. Something we definitely want to heal up as we go, because it will make us take damage as we walk. And we have the second room here, which we have that cottage we talked about, plus an extra potion. And then down below it, we have the 4 Pisco Demons. Let's talk about that fight a little bit. So Pisco Demons, we are essentially going to be using our Thundara spell, and maybe using other people depending on what we get. So if we get a preemptive, we're going to attack with everybody, or Thundara, and then the other 3 will use Thunder into attacks on different Pisco Demons, hoping that one gets hit with 84 damage. Otherwise, we're just going to essentially defend, hope for an easy fight here, and then cast double Thundara. So what we're hoping to see here is that everybody survives, because this is a good experience. In this case, it worked out. Well, it was about to reset there, but we were good. So from here, we want to make sure that we also save, because we don't get a save after the battle. So if we do die on the way out, we would have to retake this fight. So very much worth healing if you got hit, kind of paying attention to that. Remember that the warrior has higher defense, so he can take more hits. So a potion kind of goes a longer way, but we still want to make sure that our mages stay alive. Let's talk about targeting a little bit. So the way that Final Fantasy 1 does is any single target attack is kind of weighted a little bit. So the first slot, the warrior in this case, gets targeted 50% of the time. The monk slot, the second slot, gets targeted 25% of the time. And the last 2 slots get targeted 12% of the time, 12.5% of the time. So it might not seem like that much, but it comes out to that and it evens out as you go. So having the people who can tank more damage in the first 2 slots is very important. At this point, I don't really need levels. I have the HP I want. We're kind of just going for the quickness, so we're fleeing from the majority of fights here. Now what you might also have on your way out, you might have an extra Thundara charge. So you want to pay attention to that, because you could take one of these fights on the way out for a quick fight, Gil, or some good experience. So we're going to head up here. We're going to go ahead and either tent or cottage outside to get a larger spell slots back and our HP. And we're going to head into Astos. Now, Astos is an interesting one. Essentially what we're going to want to do in this fight is use our Temper strat mixed with some Thundara and Thunder. Essentially, there's a few things you can do. You can just temper your monk and hope for like a crit, because he has a higher upside. Or you can split it between fighter and monk, which personally I like to do. And then once that's done after 2 turns, we'll go ahead and cast Thundara and Thunder. Now, Astos can be a little scary, because he can do these AoE spells right here like we see. They can hit for a low roll about 80, or if he decides to high roll, it can hit for about 100. What we're not hoping to see is if he decides to slow our fighters, because then they can't hit for multiple hits, which slows down the fight. So like we can hit here for 4 times, which does a lot of damage. And we're hoping not to see death as well. Now if it's on the warrior, it's not as bad, because the warrior is essentially going to be useless in game. So this is good for some early levels here for the people we want it to. So this is a very advantageous fight, as long as we can get back down to Elfheim with the HP we have. In this case, we have plenty of health, plus if we wanted to, we could use a cottage. So now, here's the case where we don't have a fighter to tank damage. Can be a little risky as we go, so you might want a quick save as you go. So in this case, we do get a really good fight. This is the Grogu Ogre fight, which is worth some good experience and some good gil, especially with the warrior there. This is one kind of worth taking. In this case, it's a little bit risky and doesn't exactly pan out the best for me in this scenario, but I am able to get out of this fight. So I did take a risk, and it paid off really well for the lower mage. Lower mage was able to get a good chunk of experience off of this. So I'm going to quick save, because we were usually get about 2 encounters back to Elfheim. We'll get 1 around the lake, and 1 once we hit these mountains down here. So I'm going to save a little bit closer, to save a little time if I do need to reset. Luckily I did get a Parental Strike. And we are able to flee. So this worked out really advantageous for me. It may not, you might need to reset in this scenario. But essentially, once we get here to Elfheim, the reset heavy part of the game has ended. So I'm going to go ahead and revive here. You can decide to keep the warrior down and then revive him later on. That way, if you take any sea encounters, it goes to the 3 people you want it to go to. But in this case, we've gotten enough levels with people dead. We're going to pick up our second Thundara charge, and then we're going to heal up at the end. Now, later on, you can decide to also buy haste. We'll need to come back for it anyways if we don't. Normally, if you buy it now, you only get 1, but it's a little safer if you buy it later, where you can afford to get 2. So we're starting the fetch quest section of the game. So we got the eye from Astos, and we're going to head up to give that to Matoya. Now we can decide a few things here. If we want to take the fight, we'll defend with the fighters. Otherwise, we'll flee. And then, just for time, we'll cast Thundara, unless we're really low on HP. In this case, we're not. And Thundara will essentially clear everything out. There's a chance that you could low roll the sharks. Our mages are so high level right now that it's a very low chance that they'll low roll them. So we kind of split decision here. That way, either we get the flee, which we kind of want for some of these. We're able to use this Thundara charges to get more gil, because we do have a big menu coming up. But we also basically guarantee we're going to clear the fight. So there's an interesting thing that also happens depending on how many enemies you have. Only a certain amount are able to attack in the first turn before you get your first attack. So for that, it's going to be, the cutoff is at 5. So at 5 enemies, before can attack, before you're guaranteed an attack. Now, your attack can be either a flee check, it could be a defend check, or it can be, you know, a spell if you have a spell. So if you do have someone defending, your free action there could be a defend. In this case, most of the time we should get our spells off, hopefully. But it could be the defense, so keep that in mind. We're going to give the eye here to Matoya. We do have 3 chests down here we can pick up if we don't have any items, which I do not. There are 2 potions and an antidote. So a little bit worth taking for the safety side. If you really need it, it's just a couple seconds. But if you still have potions left over, you really don't need them. You can just skip them and continue on. Now, to return to the guaranteed amount of attacks the enemies get. So we talked about 4 for 5. At 6, it should be still in the 4 area. Once it's 7, they get 5. Once it's 8, they get 6. And once it's 9, they also get 6. So at most, only 6 things will attack you before you get a chance to essentially take a turn if you are on the slower side. Alright, so now we're going to be heading back down to Elfheim. Here we are going to go ahead and give the Jolt tonic that was given to us by Matoya to the Prince. And the Prince is giving us the Mystic Key. Now, Mystic Key essentially is a key for scenarios when you're in or locked. You can go and get things. In particular, we just need to go back to Cornelia after that to pick up an item. But otherwise, there are some other items hiding in certain areas that we could pick up as well. On the speedrun, we don't really do that, so you only really need it to progress the story. Once we run out of Thundars, we do want to switch to Flee for our characters, or Defend, depending on how much HP we have. And one thing you can also do here is if you're going to get an encounter soon, you can head into a town, and it will take you... you head into town on the right hand side and it will take you into the center area. So you'll save a few steps if you're going to get an encounter soon. So if your next encounter were to be, next step would be an encounter, and you go on a ladder, on stairs, or go into a town, it will essentially clear that and reset the amount of steps. So here, make sure you talk to the attendant instead of the Prince in the bed, because the attendant is the one that's going to give you the key. There are a few items here that are on the outside that we need the key for. We can pick up. These are pretty good for Gil. You can skip these if you're ahead. But the Mystic Hammer, 1500 Gil, and the Bronze Gloves, which you don't necessarily need to pick up. They're not worth a whole lot, but they're worth about 100 Gil, which is a couple potions if you really want it. So if you still have Thundars left over, we could just continue on. Otherwise, you could go into the inn if you wanted to take more fights. It's really up to you. We're really hoping to get enough threes where we don't have to take another inn until we get to Cornelia. And then again, if you see a fight that you really want to take, you can go ahead and defend and cast them back. But it's really good to know how many Thundars you have left. That way you're not stuck auto-battling into an attack and essentially wasting a whole turn. Now we're going to head up into Cornelia Castle. We're going to head around, kind of like Elfheim, to over here, where there's 2 rooms with 3 chests each. Now, a few things we can sell in the first room, and the second room is going to have the nitro powder, which is going to allow us to get outside the inner sea of the map. In the next town, which is our next town for a while, doesn't have a clinic to revive people, and it doesn't have an item shop. So we need to make sure we head to the item shop in Cornelia. So first here I'm going to go to the inn. I'm going to go ahead and get my magic spell charges back. And then we're going to go shop. And we can essentially spend all of our money. We can also, if we save around 2,000, we're able to buy a silver armlet for a little bit of safety here too. Normally I just buy the minimum amount that I kind of need. In this case, we're going to go ahead and sell here everything. We can sell the cottages because they're worth a lot. We're going to buy a couple Phoenix Downs to get to 3, antidotes back to 5. 1 or 2 gold meals, depending on. 25 ether is pretty good. And then get up where you have 50 potions. And I kind of like to save money because if I can't buy the silver armlet, I have enough for the shop after that. Because we might be a little bit low sometimes, depending on how many encounters or what encounters we take. So it kind of helps to not overspend. That way I can also kind of gauge my ether economy better as I go down. So we're going to head up here, use a little bit of harbor tech. We don't have to go inside of it, we can just touch the left hand side. And we're going to head down here into the dwarf cave. Dwarf cave has more treasures here, as well as it's going to be able to blow open the canal. So first room here, about 1,000. Then we're going to head down and talk to the dwarf to blow up the canal. Now, with what we get here, we're able to buy the 2 Faragas we need to head into Earth Cave. Very important we get those for Lich. We could try to clear if you bought like Farah earlier on, or we bought Thundara. But Faraga is the next tier. It's going to do a good chunk more damage, and so very important we buy. If you're first starting out too, what you can also buy is the Furas from Alfheim, if you have the money. So in my case, I had about 2,000 left over anyways, so I could have bought them. And it kind of smooths out a little bit. It uses the same spell slot as Thundara's, so things that are susceptible to fire will take more damage. So it's kind of good, and so if you're just running out, it might be a good safety thing. But later on, you kind of don't really need to buy the Furas. So we're going to follow the dwarf here to the left-hand side once we get released. A few chests we don't need. We're going to pick up all 3 of these chests. We don't need the 2 right chests. So the other one will have a potion, which we don't really need an extra potion, and then a great helm, which sells for like 80, which is not a lot at this point. But with the 2 major items here, we'll be able to sell those for about 8,000. Now again, kind of split decision here as we go. I've become very much a fan of the split decision, because it allows us to clear the fight within one go. Now we could take the extra fleet checks from the mages, and maybe that works out better, but mitigating risk is usually much better than going for a slightly more optimized kind of get lucky and hope strat, which in my opinion, hope is not a strategy at all. You can also try to spend down these Thundars so you can defend for if you get a good fight again as you go, because we'll probably use the end anyways. But it really comes down to in the end, fleeing is going to be faster than taking that Thundar because we don't have the experience screen as well. So we're going to head down here into Moment. We're going to go head into the inn, and then we need to go ahead and sell our stuff. Now, you can't sell in the magic shop, so we're going to have to go to the weapon shop. If we already know we are going to buy a silver armlet here, we'd actually go to the armor shop, which in this case, I do not do. So, I see I have 1,200. Faragas cost 4, and then the silver armlet also costs 4, so we have enough to buy a silver armlet. Normally, we would put this on the weakest of the black mages. They're both pretty strong. We'll still put on the weakest one, but in this case, it's just a super safety kind of thing. We didn't necessarily need to do this. So having 126 here is really good. And you see the other one has 170. So we're going to head down into our first dive of Earth Cave. There are 2 dives. The first one, we're going to go down and kill a vampire. The second one, we're going to go down and kill Lich. So as we go down, we really want to pay attention to our ether economy. Early on, we're kind of essentially just trying to get to level 12, which is our first Faraga charge. And then after that, 13 and 15 give us our second and third charges, which we need to pay attention for. So we'll take some things, we'll flee, basically just going for speed at this point. But since we have really good levels on our mages already, we can kind of play the faster and looser version of this. And we have a lot of HP. So we can kind of just look at HP and go as we need to for healing. So there's some things that can hit pretty hard, but we have a good amount of Phoenix Downs to play it safe. In this case, Hillgosses are one of the scary things, but it's probably one of the better fights. We have 2 Faragas that will clear. In this case, we need to use our fighters, because Thundaras will be about 80 short each, because they have 240 health. We'll clear that out. Get a good chunk here, we have level 12. So we're going to go ahead and get our first Faragas. We're going to organize here, just so it saves us time down the line. We pay attention there. The level 3 and level 5, as it's laid out, so we can see level 1 through 4, level 5 through 8 on the charges for the numbers. And that's how we kind of see how many charges we have available to refill. So when we use an ether, it fills up, restores 1 per level slot. So if we do need to clear out some Thundara charges, that way when we do use an ether, it gives us a level 3 and a level 5 restore for those slots. We want to kind of do that. So this fight right here, for example, is optimized for Thundara. Well, Thundara will kill. But if we really need to clear out some Fraga slots, we'll clear out the Fraga slots. So sometimes you might use the Fraga, which would be overkill, just because you want to be efficient. Because in that case, you know, we will use Fraga, and we use the Ether next, and we can heal both a Thundara and a Fraga slot, if that makes sense. So as we go, we kind of have to pay attention here. Wraith is kind of a tricky one. Thundara, most of the time, will low roll until we get our intellect level to 30. So Fraga will clear in that case. So you really need to know what will clear here, like these guys, for example, Thundara will work. So talking about intellect, we start the game with 20 intellects. We are guaranteed to hit 30 intellect by level 20, but we can hit it early. If we do, we get a buff, which essentially it is a 50% damage boost to the amount of damage any of our spells does. We're hoping to get it by Lich because it turns a 4-turn fight into a 3-turn fight, which is really good. Let me talk about Cockroaches a little bit. We really want this because right here, when we petrify the warrior and the monk, they are still able to be targeted, as you can see. Where it misses, they can't take damage, but they take targets. We don't have to queue them up, where essentially we want to cast spells anyways. It will save us a lot of time. Unfortunately, they do still gain experience. In the case of the monk, that's good because we want him for angling, but the warrior will be taking a fourth of our experience. So this is a little bit more risky too, because if the last 2 slots die, it doesn't matter what the first 2 slots are. But this allows us to speed up the game. So getting an early Cockroach fight is really good. It's going to save us potions. It's going to save us time. So we're going to make sure here we have 1 Fraga charge per, and that we're healed up. You know, we're just going to cast Fraga from each mage. We could maybe get away with a Fraga Thundara cast, because he does have 240 HP. But generally we just want to cast Fraga, because he could kill one of the mages, and we want to be as close as we can to the amount of damage he needs to kill him. So really hoping we're petrified by now. The 3rd floor here is the only one with cockatrices. So once we get off this floor, we'll have to wait until we come back. We pick up the chest. Make sure you pick up the chest, because if you leave without it, you can't progress. We're going to go a quick save again, just like Pixel Demons from earlier. It does not save after the fight. And again, Ether Economy, we're kind of paying attention. For the most part, this floor is going to have the better fights. Cockatrices are kind of okay. In a 4-pack, they're kind of good for Gale. They're not the best for experience. These guys are okay because the Thundara they're pretty abundant, our Thundara charges. So it'll give us decent. We can clear out pretty quick. Pisco Demons are good for experience, but normally we can't kill. Mummies are great. Good for experience, good for Gale. They usually die with the Thundara. You can use a Fraga to because it will do a lot more damage, but we don't necessarily need to. Again, cockatrices. We could choose to clear it, which in this case I do since it's already kind of queued up. So it might be unoptimal to take it, but for time, since we already have it queued, I saved the menuing time just by auto-battling. And here we're going to clear out a few of our Frogga charges like I talked about, just so we can heal up the Frogga charges. That way we are efficient with our ether charges. And essentially here we're just picking and choosing for gil and for experience because we do need to get to level 15 on the mages. So here's an example of not paying attention. It could cost, if that lower mage died, would be wasting a turn. But here's an example of a fight we don't necessarily want to take, but we'll clear it just because if we fail to flee, it's going to take a bit. Now we did hold on to those tents. Tents will cure 200 HP and 2 spell slots each. So it's good to use here once we're on the outside. When we're on the outside here, we don't want to use ethers at all if we can help it. We want to save those for our second dive. So make use of those tents if you can. Here we're clearing because the tents essentially will do the job. So most of the time we won't flee. We'll just go ahead and either split decision like we are now, or we'll go ahead and full clear. What we're really hoping for is ogres, or we're hoping for lesser tigers. Now lesser tigers are a little tougher, but they do have a chance to drop an X potion, which could potentially save us a trip later on. So in particular here is a good place to find either ogres or the lesser tigers. We can find the lesser tigers on the outside of the bowl. So this is a place where the Star Ruby is used. Without it, we couldn't pass this golem. Now here we are in the Sage's Cave. We need to pick up the Earth Rod. There's nothing else of use in here. Just the Sage or Sada to get us the Earth Rod. That's going to allow us to go past the room that the vampire is in. So essentially we're going to do the same thing on the way out, take fights we want all the way back in. And usually tent up our cottage before we do our second dive of Earth Cave, so we're going to be going down 5 floors this time. On these encounters here that are right by the cave entrance, we usually get very low tier fights, such as goblins. So if you get an encounter down there, you pretty much know it's going to be a flea. And then once we get to chunk higher up, it's back normal. Just an interesting note that it essentially only has those 4 goblins down here because it wasn't populated with anything else. Now there's a case to be made to essentially make sure we have 2 slots used for each our Thundar and Frog on the way down. But if you don't have it by now, unless you really need the levels, pretty much just tent cottage up and head down. So on the way down again, we really want to make sure we hit 15. Any higher than that can be useful for later on. but we kind of want to play it by ear. So it was an interesting fight here. A frog and a thunder on the ogre chief. And we'll clean spell. We can kind of save those AoE spells. Now in this room also, there's a coral sword in the top right room you can grab if you still have your warrior out. But hopefully by now, before we came back, we already have them petrified. And normally it's a good amount of time to go over there. We'll usually pick up 2, 3, maybe 4 extra encounters, which isn't exactly worth our time. There is a chest room on the north side here that's worth 3,400 gil. You can get in as well. If you need it, usually you'll add close to another encounter on. So it's usually good to pick it up. It's usually worth the time, but really up to you as you go. There's also other chests here. There's 2 chests to the left, where you can pick out, there's a monster in the chest, and it is the Earth Elemental. You can use 2 Frogas to clear it, if you really do need levels. But normally that's not something what we would take. One thing I like to know when I'm talking to people on this game is it's okay to make a wrong decision, as long as it's not a super bad decision. So essentially on a boss fight at the end of the game, that's where you want to pay attention. But for these, if we use a frog instead of a Thundara, or we accidentally use a Thundara when you frog us, we have to cast another one, that's fine. The biggest thing that's going to save you time to get your early time down is making quick decisions. So even if it's a wrong decision, you really need muscle memory of what you really want to take per fight as you go down. So getting used to trying to make quick decisions is going to be the biggest way to save time as you go. So here we're on floor 5. Really want to pay attention to our charges, what level we are. We might take some extra fights, like a single troll, not really worth it. Only if it was a 2-pack, or if it was that 3-pack, we'd take it. But again, not entirely worth it unless we really need the experience for the level. Another thing we want to make sure we are here is if we're close to a level, we want to make sure we have at least about 140 HP. Lich can high roll a Blazara for 140. And so we want to make sure we can take at least 1 elemental AoE attack from him. 2 attacks will pretty much die anyways. So being north of 140 is usually pretty good. And then make sure we have 3 charges per. And go into this fight. Make sure you're healed up all the way as well. So this is going to be a fight. If you're not paying attention, it's where we're going to notice the intellect level first. So normally we'll do somewhere between about 180 to 200 with Faraga. We'll do closer to 240 if we have intellect, which in this case we do not. So for this, what we're going to do is essentially 3 rounds of Faraga and then 1 round of Thundara. In that case, we got double AoE'd, so it's over for us there. Go ahead and load up our quick save. Make sure you're quick saving before bosses. To redo the floor, that's a lot of time, or even a couple steps each time, depending on how many times you reset. But Lich can troll you, so this is kind of the first really RNG heavy point of it, where Lich can just deny us for a long time if you choose to. So essentially what we're looking for here is just wasted attacks, so holds on the pet fight characters. He can haste himself, he can slow us. Slow essentially only attacks physical attacks, so we don't really worry about it at all. It's turn-based game, so it's not like we lose a turn or anything like that. And pay attention here for when you switch to Thundaras. We essentially get out here, swap here. So now our next threshold is level 16. That's when we can use our first Thundaga charge. We should pretty much get it before we need it, but we want to take a few encounters on our way to our next location. So if we did heal up all those Faragas, we should have at least 6 Thundara charges. Well, I guess at least 4. But we should definitely have more than that usually in that case. So we can kind of just cast all the way down to get as much heal as we can. As much experience to get to level 16. To buy Thundaga. Thundaga is going to cost 26,000 for 2. And we still want a little left over to buy a couple more items. So on our way, pretty much everything is going to die from Thundara charges. On land and by sea. The only thing really is going to be a few of the tougher things once we do get over to Crescent Lake. We can save time here if we have levels again. If we got really lucky, we can flee. But for the most part, we want to take these. And this is essentially the last time in the game we're going to take these in earnest. There's one other time after this where we should be high enough where it doesn't really make much of a difference. We might just take just a few encounter spells. So we're hoping for Sharks, Red Sahagins, and Buccaneers as we go, just for that really good gil and okay experience. Once we get on land, we have a chance at a 4 on-cake fight. So if you have extra ethers, you might want to ether up, just so we can cast 2 Faragas, because that will kill. So we did world wrap here. We just went left and we came out on the right hand side. Yeah, and we're gonna get 2 to 3 fights as we head into the city. Now with the Earth Crystal, we'll be able to get the canoe. So for now, we'll have to go around the lake, but afterwards, we'll be able to go through any of these shallower bodies of water. Single on king fight, not really worth it. There's no flee. And see right here, even with that enemy, we might get unlucky with fleas. So we're gonna head in. We don't need a lot here. Normally what I like to do is fully fill up my potions if we have enough money, but we need to make sure we have 26 after this buy. So buy some PDs, about 10 ethers is good. And in this case, we had 40 potions left, so I just got some high potions early. That way we save a little money later on because we don't have to sell back the potions. Then we have just enough to buy those 2 Thundagas. So we need 26,000. Make sure you have that. You could use the inn there too as you come in, but we should have enough ethers and potions especially to get us where we need to go. We're going to talk to the guy to the right of the guy in blue. That's going to be where the canoe is. And then we're going to exit here at the top of the screen. So pay attention sometimes to where you can exit. It doesn't have to be the entrance of the town. And now we're going to head out across the water with the new canoe, save a little bit of time. And we're going to head up into Ice Cavern. Ice Cavern is exactly as it sounds. It's made of ice, so you can think that any fire spell is good. Thundaga can be good, and Thundaga can still clear some things. Here, trolls can die usually from one Faraga. The Minotaurs usually take a Faraga and a Thundaga, so it's usually not worth your time. And we're just going to head up just right above this, and we're going to go onto the river. Now, the river can be very scary. There are things on here that can hit for about 300, so you want to maybe quick save as you go, or at least make sure that you're healed up. This is where Thundaga comes into play as well, because that Thundaga charge is going to be able to clear out these enemies a lot faster. Single White Croc, this is a scary enemy. There's only one of them, so usually I will flee from a single White Croc unless you really need the experience of the level. But we are speedrunning, so we're just going to go ahead and skip the single White Croc. Now 4, we're going to go ahead and use the Thundara and the Thundaga. If we have Intellect, we might be able to clear out this. The Hydras usually are about the high end of what a Thundaga can hit once we get Intellect anyways. So we'll want to kind of split decision with the Thundaga and Thundara anyways. And we're going to cure up that Thundaga so we can use it again on the river. And kind of same situation. You can see here just a regular Crocodile able to hit for 120. White Croc can hit for can crit for about 300. Heal up, get our Thundaga back. And once we're on land, it's kind of gets a little bit easier again. And once we get inside, pretty much everything can die from a Faraga or a Thundaga, and some things from Thundara. The Ice Cavern is good for experience early on, so we really want to pay attention to the larger packs. Pretty much all the smaller packs we can just flee from. Not really worth our time. There are some scary things here. If we get 2 white dragons, they can cast Snowstorm, and Snowstorm can do 100 damage each, so we want to pay attention to that. If we don't have Intellect, Faraga won't clear. We want to use the Thundaga until that happens. That's pretty much the only thing we're going to pay attention to. Other than that, these Faragas will clear out everything. King Mummies need a Faraga. Thundaga will roll. And single White Dragon we don't need to worry about for the Ice Storm. There's only one, so we should really clear out with 2 Faragas. Very good experienced dragons, so if we can take out dragons, usually we get a decent amount of gil and experience. Ice Gigas by itself, as we can see here, is kind of chunky. Faraga is what we want to cast. We can, in a pinch, cast some Thundaras, but generally not worth it. We might want to just flee. In this case, we didn't really have the spells. We didn't have the health, so I didn't entirely risk it. It was a very good case study of making sure we have enough spells. So, Ether Economy 2 if we don't buy that many. So again, Wraiths we don't really care about too much, so we'll just go ahead and flee from them, unless it's a large pack. Opted for a split decision there, especially with the preemptive. We have a little bit of better luck. Dark Wizards can be scary because they can cast Thundaga. They can also cast Scourge, what Knight's Land is instant death. But one Thundaga will clear them out. Once we hit level 17, we have that second Thundaga charge. So that's another kind of critical level to pay attention to. Every time we fall down here, we do have this pack here, which Faraga is very good just to take them out. And we will be falling down twice. So there's 3 actual spots we fall down here. The other one we need to get to the Evil Eye to get the Levy Stone, so we can get our airship. And we shall have to flee this Ice Gigas this time. I mean, it's worth decent, but anything that we have to cast 2 spells for, unless it's really good or scary, we don't really care about. So in this case, I have a lot of high potions. 24 is a good chunk for the start of the game. So I'm kind of just spending my potions with abandon here. Because we really will be able to max out high potions later on. So we want to clear those out and kind of save our high potions. So it will save us a little embarrassment of dying. Another instance here of not being able to flee right away. 2 chests here. There's one about 10k and Ice Shield, which is about 5k to sell. The middle chest has a sleeping bag, which is a lesser version of a tent. It only heals 100 HP. And we have Eagle Eye here. 2 Faragas will kill. If we have Intellect, it will 1-shot, otherwise we'll need 2 casts. The only thing we're not hoping to get would be Silence, which we don't have any Echo Herbs, so we'd essentially just reload. So it's worth saving before that fight, just so you don't have to drop back down again. Be really careful going to the eye. You might drop down, and you'll have to go all the way back up. Then to get out of here, we'll have to repeat what we did before. So we'll have to take this encounter. And after that, we are going to leave this area and get back into our ship. Now our next thing we're looking for essentially is 3 Thundaga charges, which we're pretty much guaranteed to get if we keep taking encounters. We'll need that for Kraken. After that, the next thing we're looking for is HP thresholds. So we're looking for about 300 on the monk and at least 240 on the mages. So mages are getting there. But that's kind of the benchmark we want to have before Chaos right at the end of the game. I'm going to use the same strategy here, leaving the river. Neo Ochus are pretty good. If we have Intellect, 2 Faragas will clear. Otherwise, we're going to throw in a Thundaga. This is the only thing on the river that is not resistant to Faraga. So if we have Intellect, it's very good. And worth a good chunk of experience as well. It's worth 3 times as much as the Ochu. The Ochu I generally skip. And then here's another decent fight here. This one can be a little bit scary. And the White Claw is pretty good, especially with Intellect here. Thundaga will clear that right out. So we're going to exit the river here. And we're going to head down below the landing, essentially on the southern tip of this area we're on, to go ahead and get our airship. From there, we're going to go ahead and pick up a few things before we start the last chunk of the game. we're heading back here to Elfheim. This is where we're going to pick up haste. Haste is a very important thing. What we can also do here is full buy. We'll have enough for everything. Just make sure you have 5,000 left over. We'll sell everything we don't need here. And we're going to go ahead and buy our last items in the game. So we're going to sell these potions. We're going to max out on high potions. We're going to max out on ethers. And then essentially we want somewhere between 20 and 30 Phoenix Stones. We usually still need another gold needle here to get our monk back up. Other than that, 5,000 to get haste. And our last pickup piece will be able to get us our last couple things in the game as well. So it's a good time to item shop if you do decide to go to haste this late in the game. Now we're going to head over to Cardia Isles. Since we don't really need the money here, we might take a few of these things. But what we're coming here is for the full restores. So X potion here, plus about 15,000. There's more chests up there, which we don't really need, but since we get the X potion, might as well get like the 15k. And then the other southern isle here is going to have our elixir. So this paired with another elixir, there are 3 easy pickups. If we get one drop, we can either take one off here or try to go to the end with 2 restores. So if we don't do this here, this will save us about a minute, depending on how much time you take. Then we're going to go to our other fetch quest item where we need to get the warp stone. And for this, there's this one spot here we can land on. We're going to go up the river. Remorazes, Gonzagas, this is a very good fight to take as well. Same rule of thumb going up this river. I'm kind of deciding what we want. Since we hit intellect, Thundaga will clear here. We don't have to worry about Thundagas anymore. Oddly enough too, once we hit this point, 2 Thundaras will also clear if we do not have the Thundaga Turtles. Now in this cave there's some good fights. We have essentially nightmares, mummies, dragons, and golems. Golems generally we don't want to take. We're going to take 2 spells. Mummies, pretty good for healing experience, especially if it's King Mummy. For that, just a Faraga. Nightmares, just 1 Thundaga. 2, maybe we'll run from. 3, we'll definitely want to take. So a good fight to take. You can also skip this if you want. But essentially here, this is a good experience piece until the next area. The last thing is the Green Dragon, which will be 2 Thundagas. Which Green Dragon is the best dragon in the game. Best fight you can take, pretty much, that we can expect to see. Powerless, not really worth our time. They do have a death mechanic here, but not a good chance to hit. If you're unlucky, you might hit with the case, but otherwise, you usually just flee. Thundara will clear. Force fight here, just Faragas will take them out. There's also another area, if you're not petrified yet, we can clear out the first 6 and use the cockatrices to try to petrify the warrior at this point, if they're not petrified. Other than that, we have some chests here. We want to take all the chests. Ribbon, very important, only worth 1 gil, but will half any type of spell damage we take. Make sure you talk to this golem, because it will give you the warp cube. If you forget that, you'll have to come all the way back. The rest of the items we can sell. They're gil and things we don't really need. So other than making sure you don't sell the ribbon, this is a very good dive. And we're just going to head back out here and head back to our ship. So as soon as we get down here, we're going to go ahead and hop into our airship. We're going to head over to a hidden spot in the desert. It's called Caravan. We're going to head over to the left-hand side, one spot we can land on, and go into this one patch here for the Caravan. Very important we go here. We can buy the bottled fairy, as well as a few other items we need, but we're also able to sell a few things here. So we're going to go ahead and buy our Giants Tonics. We're going to buy our Speed Drinks. We're going to go ahead and sell our Defender and our Wizard Staff, which will give us enough to buy 2 Blizzagas. These Giants Tonics, they allow you to have a max HP temporarily for that one battle of 200 more than you do. So we're going to use it to bump the monk up as close to max HP of 999 for the Chaos battle at the end. The Speed Drinks we're going to use on 3 occasions here. 3 of them we're going to use on the Chaos fight, and we'll use 1 on 2 fights where just having the Speed Drink used will speed up the fight. Speed Drink, what that does is give us 2 additional hits. Here we're going to buy the Blizzaga. And then if you didn't go buy items, you buy items now with the rest of your money. Otherwise, we're going to go head up to the ferry to get our Oxyel, so we can go down to Kraken. Now, let's talk about hits a little bit. So we use Monk in particular, because Monk is able to hit for 16 max. And with the Haste spell casted, Haste has only 1 use. Once you're hasted, you're hasted. You can't get double hasted. But it allows us to do double amount of hits that we normally can do. So normal, we can use 8 hits. Monks can do 16. And so now we can hit up to 32, which allows us to hit a pretty crazy high amount of over 5,000 damage. With Chaos having 20k, that will still take at least 4 hits once we do buff up the monk quite a bit. So with the Speed Drinks, it allows us 2 additional hits early on, so we can kind of make short work of a few fights. And here we're going to go ahead over to the Water Shrine, which we're going to land right by the river again. We're going to head over to Anorak, which is just across the river. And we're going to dive down in our submarine. Let's talk about speed a little bit. So you have 3 states. You have slowed, hasted, and normal. Normal, you'll hit for up to your max amount, so 8 or 16. Hasted, you can hit double that. And it really depends on your agility. And then slowed, if you're slowed, you only can hit for 1 hit max. So that's kind of unfortunate because we need the extra hits. Otherwise, we only get 1 damage roll. Now, Water Shrine, we have the opportunity to take a good chunk of fights here if we want to. Normally, if the fight is around 3 or less, we won't take it. But these fights here with the Sea Snake, Scorpion, Troll, the Thunder or Blizzaga, will take them out. White Sharks is going to take 2 spells no matter what, so anything with a White Shark in it, we're not going to take. We can choose to kind of clear in some situations, so we can clear out that Zahag and Prince. Just that way, if we do get stuck in a flea loop, we don't have to worry about it as much. Water Elementals, we love those. 1 Blizzaga will take them out. Very good experience. And we're going to head over on the right hand side here to pick up the Diamond Armlet and the Slab, which is going to be for Tiamat. The Diamond Armlet is our best non-class specific armor we can get. We're going to pop it on a mage for now, but once the monk is up, we're going to put it on him. So kind of choose here. A lot of good split decisions can happen. This is kind of a good area to get some quick promos. So Water Shrine is our last kind of good area. We're heading in this room here. Remember the right hand chest. Diamond Armlet. On this floor there are no encounters. So you can be a little more sloppy with movement if you want to. As well as the Rosetta Stone, or also called the Slab in the old versions. This will allow us to learn Euphinium and be able to get into the area where Tiamat is. So we're going to head back up to the floor we started on. And kind of general gist, we can kind of just decide what fights we want to take. Sharks and everything else can hit pretty hard here. Ghosts especially. Ghosts are a pretty good fight as well. Just pay attention to your health and heal up as you go. You should have more than enough ethers and high potions to be a little more lax on efficiency. There's another fight here that's not the best, but we want to clear it, just because it can be annoying if we fail to flee. We have one more pickup coming up, or two technically in the same room. We're going to pick up the Giant's Club, which is very important for buffing, as well as another ribbon. The ribbon for this case is going to, again, half elemental damage. And we're going to put those on the mages for the upcoming Kraken fight. So let's talk a little bit about the buffing that's going to happen later on for the monk. There's three things we can do. We can haste, like we talked about. That temper spell, which increases our attack by, I believe it's about 12. And then the Giant's Club, which can be cast on yourself, which casts Saber, which that's going to give additional 16 attack plus some agility. And that's what naturally is going to give the monk more hits. So we're going to be buffing the monk for everything after the Kraken fight. But for the Kraken fight, it's a pretty easy fight. We're just going to be casting Kundaga. We just need 6 total. Kraken can be a little scary because he can one-shot us. So either we can decide to use a Phoenix Down or just go on with it, because usually we'll have about 4 casts by the time we get there. We're gonna head down here. We're going to pick up this chest, which monsters are in. Click Fraga if you recognize the fight. In this case, again, make sure we're not auto-battling or we're leaving it on too late, or else we have to eat these canned escapes. We're gonna head back up into this room, pick up the ribbon. At this point, we can do our equipment here. We can pop on the armlet, we can pop on those ribbons. And we're gonna essentially head down to Kraken and kind of decide if we need more encounters. Now we're getting really close to that 300 and 240. So in this case, we're in a really good spot where we can pick and choose which encounters we want to take. So again, before cracking, we want to make sure we heal up. We got our ethers going and we quick save. This fight, once again, it's 3 Thron Dagas each. We can decide to PD if we want to, or we can decide to, if we only have 1 hit left, to risk just casting out the Daga. We might get lucky and get the PD off before another hit will land as well, so it might be useful doing that PD. But for the most part, just risking Thundagas is generally a pretty good move. Unless we get really unlucky, which in this case we did. Alright, with cracking them, we have one more fetch quest to Realm Infinium, and then essentially get access into the tower. And then we can head on to Tiamat, to Malareth, and then into the Chaos Shrine. So we'll need to head back to Melmond to have Dr. Un translate the Rosetta Stone. So we're going to head up into the graveyard and just talk to Dr. Un on Lone Newfinian. From there we're going to head off to the top east of the map, which it's fastest by a couple seconds to travel normally instead of world wrapping. So we're going to land up here past the desert in this large clearing, and then essentially head down to Rufinia. These fights we don't necessarily need to take, they're all pretty much weak to Faraga. If you get a print, you might want to take them. If you're looking for levels, you might want to take them. Otherwise, fling can work as well. The only one I recommend actually taking is a 7-pack of Winter Wolves, because those guys will keep casting Snowstorm. It is a weaker version of Snowstorm compared to the White Dragons, but it still is a fun version. So we'll head over here, get the chime, and then we can exit just right out the top. Now pay attention to our parking here, because there's a very efficient parking spot in the desert to head over to Maj Tower. Once we get back to our exit. And then in March Tower, the few fights we can take. Dragon fights are pretty good. Chimeras and the Chimera variants with the Rioses are pretty good. Other than that, it's kind of really just take as you go. But Chimeras are worth a lot. Black Plans usually are a pretty good fight to take. You get like a 5 or 7 pack as well. Like I've been talking about, you really got to decide what fights you want to take. And really understand the fights. Look through the bestiary. See what fights get more experience and whatnot. See what they're weak to. And kind of just get familiar with these. So by the end of the game, we can usually get to about level 28 without too much trouble. So if you notice, we're somewhere around 26 at the moment, so we have 2 more levels throughout the rest of this run that we can easily achieve, which with good HP ups, we can get 40 additional HP on everybody, which 40 might not seem a lot compared to 240, but it does make a pretty big difference. Blue Dragon Gun with Bolzagas, and continue on and head into the tower. If you didn't get Warp Cube, you won't be able to traverse back to the Flying Fortress. So one final pickup here, we need to pick up another ribbon, and that ribbon's going to be for our monk. The decision when you want to pick up your monk is kind of up to you. Usually I like to pair it because we need to use Gold Needle and heal them at the same time and switch around orders a little bit. So I usually like to pair it with when we get the ribbon, which is in this room here on the right hand side. But it's really up to you when you want to pick them up. You can pick them up in Water Shrine as well for some quicker fleas. It really comes down to your decision. Remember, if you pick them up, you might have to menu a little more during the battles, so there are some trade-offs. So normally what I do here is I put them in the bottom of the party. While the mages will get attacked more, we usually have enough healing items, but we can decide to only change the top 2 slots on spells and whatnot, and leave the monk to just flee. So it will kind of mitigate the need to menu while he's in the second slot. It's also why some people leave him there until you get to Tiamat as well. Here's the Bridge of Destiny. Usually get 2 encounters here. A 1 in 64-ish. To get one back, don't expect it. Last chance to level here, especially if we are low on HP. So this is probably the trickiest fight we have other than Chaos, because of the high tier spells that Tiamat can cast. Essentially what we want to do here is buff up our monk while keeping him alive. So we're using Giant's Club on the monk by himself, hasting and tempering. And we'll also be throwing a few high potions in there as well, just so the monk stays alive, because Tiamat 1 does have a lot of spells that you can expect enemies to get after. So melee is kind of good. That was a low roll, which was also pretty good. It's single target. We can heal through that pretty easily. In this case, it was kind of bad because we did get a blaze immediately. So we're just going to go ahead and close out. Once the monk does die, any type of buffing does fall off. So normally if you're buffing and you do die for the monk, usually that does mean just a reset and try again. But generally you'll want to make sure you keep those high pots flowing. So you kind of have to balance between getting those extra tempers and haste off. This is also where I would throw a Speedrun, just to get the earlier hits on our monk. You can also use a Speedrun on Goliath, and then just make sure at some point having 3 for Chaos is pretty good. This comes down to a good part to Walkthru. You want to get those melee hits on the top slot. Seeing anything other than that is not the best. Usually you don't win in those scenarios. So again, another reset. So it's going to be kind of reset heavy. Our other kind of RNG area, where just no matter what we do, you might just get into a loop where you're healing the monk until you get a lucky turn where it's a melee onto the powder at the top, so you get a free turn essentially. Okay, so we're in a pretty good spot. Kind of trailing off a little bit. Lucky with that high potion in this case. I'm going to throw another one. We're going to attack as well. Another lucky turn. In this case, pretty much guaranteed to finish this off here. So there's a good chunk of luck that's also needed to survive this, because we do need enough turns that the mages can buff the monk, because the monk can buff himself, but usually by then that's too many turns and we're not going to get good luck that long. So definitely want the monk in the lower slot, because less chance for him to get bitten, but still something that happens, and it'll almost feel like he's being targeted anyways. Now we're going to head up to Mount Gulag by world wrapping again. Mount Gulag does not have any fights we want. We're essentially going to be running. There are lava tiles, because it is a volcano. While we're on the lava tiles, we do take damage, which we don't care about so much. But the good thing about that is we can't get an encounter on lava tiles. So second floor, you can actually skip any battle altogether. And since your next step would have been an encounter, we'll hit the stairs and it'll reset. So very important you get the skip on that floor. You can save a good chunk of time. Plus there's another floor where it's all lava, which is very easy, just skip there. But we want to essentially stay on lava as long as possible, skip as many encounters as possible. So usually get this one for free, you shouldn't really get an encounter here. Then with good movement, you are able to skip the encounter on this floor. Again, there's nothing here we want. You shouldn't really need to heal up unless you get really unlucky with some encounter. So for the most part, just kind of keep going. But best kind of decision you can make is really just one that works for you. If you need to heal up, just to survive some of these, that's good. In this case, you need to cast a Thundara because this fight is taking forever. Here's the other free floor. Just make sure you stay on lava the entire time. And then we just head down. So we're going to head over to Malarith. Malarith is the easiest of the fiends. 2 turns to do it. The first turn we're essentially going to buff up. Second turn we're hoping to get lucky. It may take a third turn here. But essentially 1440 on the health. So if we get lucky we'll finish in 2 turns. It's worth taking because otherwise it will take 3 turns anyways. So you could decide to do double temper, double giant scopes with a haste next turn, or you can decide to attack with them on turn 2 and just hope you get those crits off. And now that we have all of our crystals, we're going to go ahead and head up to the Chaos Shrine. If you are low on high potions, ethers, or phoenix stones, then you can head into Cornelia easily here on the way. Otherwise, somewhere around 50, 50, and 15 is good enough for the amount you need. You're most likely going to get an encounter here. You can flee, you can clear, whatever, but getting an encounter here will mean that we get a later encounter down in the Chaos Shrine, which has more difficult enemies, so it's usually better to get an encounter topside. And this is our last chance to get some good encounters here. We have chimeras, we have black cannons, we have mummies, dragons. On the water shrine floor, we have some pretty good stuff, but pretty much it's here in the water shrine floor that are going to give us our good things. In the older version of the game, you didn't pick up a leaf from the princess in the very beginning. You could miss it, and you need it here, which would be rather unfortunate. The PR makes you do it, so in this case, we're not going to miss that at all. But in that same room is where we get our final answer. So Vampire Lords are pretty good here. The only thing we want to worry about for vampires is they can cast Null. Solo cast, Nullfire. Black Knights are decent too, but we'll need Tooth and Daggas. Impact is a little scary. They can cast the low-level Flare, which is a little scary. But really good. And the Death Eye. 2 Faragas will do the trick. Now we have a very low 1% chance to get an Elixir here. So we're kind of hoping to see-ish, but we do have one further in the room we can also get. So we have the potential to have 4 full heals. And then here's a loot, which this is our last kind of little break before we head down. My philosophy here is pretty big on skill positioning. So even though that ice fight wasn't worth that much, this one much more. A lot harder to run away from 8 things, usually it feels like, than just 3. Or otherwise, you know, it's just 3 hits instead of 8. You decide to flee. So purple ones are pretty good, so if we get like 2-pack, might be worth taking. They are pretty heavy on the experience as well. As well as Chimeras. Rios are really good, like we talked about. But pretty much, once we're here, we're good to go. Alright, so this floor right here is the Lich floor. There's pretty much nothing here that is worth taking. Maybe the Medusas, a pretty good experience. But by the time we get here, we should be pretty much fleeing. And then maybe we'll consider a fight or 2 on the Water Shun fight. Usually I only consider water elementals at that point. Alright, so here we got Lich. Same general gist for all these boss fights. Haste, Temper, Giant's Glove. In this case, we're going to do a little more, since Lich has a little bit less than 3,000. Like I said, we can't haste twice. So we'll do double Temper. And then we're going to go ahead and attack him, see if we got a little lucky. 1,300. A little bit low. We're going to just keep throwing them. And there's 2 extra tempers. We're able to get the job done. One thing we want to worry about there a little bit is Flare, since that will high roll. Usually the high 300s, so if you have lower HP, it's going to take everyone else out. More health, same thing. You don't really take anything on this floor. It's a really short floor, which is very fortunate. And then Melareth, a lot of Faragas isn't the best, and Melareth has some pretty good physical too, so if we get unlucky, we might have to restart that fight. But it's generally the same gist. We're going to go in with Haste, Temper, and Giant's Glove. And we're going to do 2 turns. On the 3rd turn, maybe throw some extra tempers in the attack. And and continue on with that. We might need to throw a high potion if we get unlucky on the frog instead of cast. Make sure you save before the fight. Make sure you do it. Two is going to have 3,200. So I was hoping for some good 16s. Fortunately here we have a little bit of a recourse. We did hit pretty high. Malireth not as susceptible, whereas Malireth 1 we could cast the same kind of like Kraken. We can cast Blazagas. It takes about the same amount of time as if we were to do Monk anyways. So if you get in a lucky spot here, and you don't necessarily need to reset, we can just cast some Blazagas. And fortunately for us, that was able to play out. So kind of worth it if you're in a bad spot. So this is the water floor, so we can get some good encounters here. Like right here is probably one of the best encounters we can do. This one's going to take 2 Blazagas, because those water Nagas will not die from one. But to really experience heavy fight, kind of like the Rioses. Kraken, same kind of gist here, as you can see. And we're hoping for 218s, essentially average to 3,600. Now next floor we're going to get 1 encounter. And then we're going to have Tiamat 2. Tiamat 2 a lot less tricky than Tiamat 1. A lot of lower level spells are known. Same general gist though, because Tiamat 2 has 5500 HP. So this is one of those scenarios where we want to still throw a few high pots, but we're going to take 3 turns of buffing instead of 2. We can keep throwing a few more things. And with that down, we're pretty much done. We have one more random encounter, so if you need to get one last level, you have that opportunity. So kind of pay attention to how much experience the next level. In this case we have 5,000 about, which for that we need 20,000 experience fight, which we need 4 green dragons, which very unlikely we'll get that here. Some would say impossible. So it's worth maybe taking this fight here, just to clear sometimes. So pay attention to that, and then we have an interesting setup for chaos. So it might be good sometimes just to kill the fight early if the mages go down fast, or if we can't get the scenario we want. But we want to go in pretty much here with 3 restores, that way we have some chance to heal up. So general gist of this is we're hoping for low damage early attacks. So whether that is like a Slura to the mages or to the fighter at the top. If that is Blazara is our best thing that does damage to us. If he cures himself, that's great. If he misses with a melee, that's great. But otherwise, 3 giant tonics, we get as close to the max. We're going to throw haste. I'm going to go ahead and I like to throw the X-Pot just to get that out of the inventory. And then we're going to start giant spelling. Haste on Chaos is not the best, it wastes one of his turns. But now Chaos can hit for over 1,000, so it can one-shot on Monk no matter what. That kind of makes my decisions in general a little bit easier. So I'm not worrying for a lower level hit, because normally he can hit up to about 600. So I know that he can hit for quite a bunch. So I'm not worrying so much about healing up early. So we're going to throw those speed drinks, throw some tempers. We're going to hope to get lucky here in this situation. We got a low roll. We need to get an elixir off. Luckily he cured it for Azure himself, which is a waste of his own turn. And we're able to heal it. So generally in this case we want to keep somewhere above the layer mark, which is about 400. So once we get to like 450, 500 area, think about throwing one. Unless you're like low, you kind of want to hold on to it. In this case we know you can hit high, I'm not going to waste just to heal it that last little bit. And we're just going to hope to get lucky. In this case we're doing 5,000. Slow is not great, but we're doing 5,000, so half of that is about 2,500. What you could do here is do a PD to try to get a mage up to haste again. That's going to waste some turns. So we're going to get a few hits in. We're going to elixir just to play a little bit safe. And we're just going to go for it. He double hastes himself, which is a waste of time. And we're just going to just keep going. And time's going to be on double flash. And that is it. We are done. So just like that, it's over. Somewhere that most people try to aim for is about the 2-hour mark. This one looks to be about the 156 mark per time, which is not too bad. But yeah, somewhere around the sub 2-hour mark is usually very much achievable. Just follow the guides and go through all that, and you should be able to get down to a sub 2 pretty easily, in my opinion. Feel free to reach out on Discord if you have any questions. Otherwise, enjoy, and thanks for watching. Hope you all have a good rest of your day. Peace.